Welcome to today's session from Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and we are on chapter 15 at the moment, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. We have covered up to verses 15 so far, and we shall be continuing from verse 16 to 20. 20th verse is the last verse of this chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pankum Langhate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam, Paramananda Madhavam, Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Verse 16. Tvavimo Purusho Loke, Ksharashchakshara Evacha, Ksharah Sarvani Bhutani, Kutastho Kshara Uchyate. With verse 16, the three shloki begins of Bhagavad Gita, which is all about the Sambandh, Abhiday and Prayojan. So verse 16 is about the Sambandh. Translation: there are two classes of beings, the fallible and infallible. To the material world, every living entity is fallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Verse 617 is about the Abhideya. Uttamaha Purushastavanyaha Paramatmeta Meta Yudaritaha Yo Lokatrayama Vishaya Vibhartyavya Ishwaraha. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Verse 18 is all about the Prayojan. Yasmat aksharam tito aham ksharadapi chottamaha atosmi loke vede cha prathitaha purushottamaha. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. Verse 19, this is called as Ekashloki. Yoma meva sammudho janati purushottamam sa sarvavid bhajati mam sarvabhavena bharata. Whoever knows me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. Verse 20. Iti guhyatamam shastram idam muktam mayanagha etad buddhva buddhimana syat krit krityascha bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Verse 16 to 18, as we just said, it is all about the three shloki, the Sambandh, Abhiday and Prayojan. In verse 16, Bhagwan is saying to Arjun that there are two classes of living entities. One are fallible, those who fall down, and the others are infallible, those who don't fall down. Everyone on this material planet is fallible, or they can fall down, and whereas in the spiritual world, everybody is infallible. So those who are in oneness with the Lord, they are called infallible. And those who are like sometimes here and sometimes not quite here with Lord, they are infallible. Because living beings, there are times in our lives then when we start to doubt the existence of Lord. So the living entities, as living entities, we are separated from the Lord's anyway. But we are part and parcel of the Lord, but still we are separated from Lord. So we are all known as fallible. Kshara Sarvani Bhutani means we are all fallible. And As we've been saying, we are all the living entities struggling with our body and mind because of our five senses in this material world, and our material bodies which are changing all the time. And so it is so important for us that while we are in this world, we understand the right purpose of this life. And as we know, in this material world, a living entity undergoes 6 changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, and then dwindling, then vanishing. These are the changes of the material body, not the soul. For soul, no change happens, but in the spiritual world, these changes of the body don't happen. They all exist in oneness. Kshara, Sarvani, Bhutani. So any living entity who has come in contact with matter, beginning from first created being, which is Brahma, down to the smallest ant, Prabhupada is telling us, is changing its body. Therefore, they all are fallible. So this is our sambandh. In this material world, we are fallible. We are separated energies of Krishna. And when we get into oneness, when we understand the purpose, and when we are eventually going to get closer to the Lord after this life due to the bhakti yoga, then we will become infallible. The infallibleness is in spiritual world. You don't fall down back into the material plane. But here in this material plane, if we don't do the bhakti yoga, we'll go into the lower species. Verse 17 is all about the Abhideya. Bhagwan is saying to Arjun that besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Lord, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. Now, who is the one who is maintaining everything and who is imperishable, who is never destroyed, is the Supreme Lord himself. In the Katha Upanishad 2.2.13 and Shvetash Avatar Upanishad 6.13, it is clearly stated that there are lots of living entities and some of them are liberated, and there is Lord, Supreme Personality, who is Paramatma, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. That among all the living entities, both the conditioned and the liberated ones, there is one Supreme Being, and who is maintaining them all, who is giving them all the facilities for enjoyment according to their different work or different karma. And Lord is present with everyone, irrespective of their karma or irrespective of their birth, as Paramatma in their heart. And a wise man can understand this and is eligible to attain the perfect peace. And the ones who don't understand, they don't get the perfect peace. And verse 18 is all about the Prayojan. Because I am transcendental, beyond the fallible and infallible, Bhagwan is saying, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in this world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. So the first, in verse 16, we learnt about the relationship, the sambandha. The 17th verse was telling us how we can get that perfect understanding and about the relationship, that how we can improve our situation. Verse 18, Bhagwan is telling us that Lord is the greatest of all the personalities. Lord is higher than the conditioned soul and the liberated souls. Lord is neither the two of them. In quantity, we can never surpass Bhagwan's qualities, though the qualities we have got are similar to the Lord. That's why God is transcendental, beyond the fallible and the infallible beings. He is the greatest. So Lord is Uttam. There's no question of superiority or inferiority, which is only among the living beings. Lord is Uttam, or the greatest. Nobody can surpass his qualities. Paurasha Agama. This is a word which is Prabhupada has quoted in the purport. It confirms in the Nirkuti dictionary, Lokyate Vedartho Nena, meaning the purpose of the Vedas is explained by the Smriti scriptures, which came down in the memorization form earlier on. The Smriti and there is Shruti, as you all know. Shruti is by hearing, Smriti is by the memory. So the Lord who is present as Paramatma is also described in the Vedas as Tavad Esha Samprasado Samach Sharirat Samuthaya Param Jyoti Rupam Sampadaya Svena Rupena Abhinispadete Sa Uttamaha Purusha. The supersoul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then in his form he remains in his spiritual identity. That Supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence or light, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma in the hearts of all beings, as we have learned. So by incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and Parashar, he explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva. Yes, we've been saying that Vyasadeva is no other than Krishna himself, who has compiled so many scriptures for us, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam. Verse 19 is called Ek Shloki. One says here, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. So, a theme of the Bhakti Yoga, that doing the devotional service to Krishna after completely surrendering to him, knowing that he is the Supreme, and not wasting time in gaining any other kind of knowledge, because no matter how much knowledge you gain, that is not going to be enough for your total surrender to Lord. When you start offering the devotional service to Bhagwan in Bhakti Yoga, then and only then we can get away from the attachments to this conditioned life in this material world. Conditioned, we say, because our souls have been conditioned. They have got of the different lives, we have got so many anarthas and all the bad habits and all the bad things we were practicing in our early lives and now my early lives, even in this life. So they've got some kind of we have got imprints of them on our soul. So that's why we are conditioned. So by doing bhakti, by offering the service to Lord, by doing the devotional service, we are trying to uncondition ourselves from this bad practices which our soul has learned. So we shouldn't waste our time, and soon as we understand, we should surrender to Lord and start our bhakti. That is the only way out of this problems. Otherwise, this can go forever for us, birth after birth. Verse 20, Bhagwan is saying that this is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one. Anagha in this verse means O sinless, which is being addressed to Arjun, and it is disclosed now by me. Lord says, whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So Bhagwan is clearly telling to us in this verse that by understanding that that everything is which is revealed and which is given is by the Lord himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Prabhupada calls Bhagwan. This is the best definition in English for Bhagwan. And one who understands this transcendental knowledge and one who can engage himself in the devotional service, they can become free from all the contamination of the modes of material nature. And devotional service, wherever it is, the material contamination that cannot coexist. Lord is the sun, Prabhupada is telling us, ignorance is the darkness. So darkness and light, they cannot coexist. Either there will be darkness or light. So once you have the understanding, then you would have transcended the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Because for the bhakti, you need to be in pure goodness. Then only your bhakti begins. In the following of rules and regulations and understanding knowledge and surrendering, and then in serving. So we should all take into Krishna consciousness and understand the message of Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of the pastimes of the Lord. So Bhagwan, by calling Arjun Anagha, is saying that unless one is free of the sinful reactions, it is very difficult to understand Krishna. So one has to engage themselves in right frame of mind, in right association, in right swadhyaya, self-reading and hearing, and then chanting, and then the devotional service will slowly becomes perfect. It never becomes perfect in this material world. We keep on practicing, but it becomes spontaneous. We don't have to make an effort to do it. So in this 15th chapter, first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from the weakness of the heart, and the rest of the chapter from verses 6 to 20th, they all discuss the Purushottam Yoga, or the Yoga of the Supreme Lord, how to become one with the Lord, and how we can become one is how to become not one, how to unite in a way that will be by the process of Bhakti Yoga, by process of the devotional service. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person. Thanks for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna, and I hope that wherever we are just following the guidelines of our local governments at the moment, and look after your health and your families, and chant and be happy. Hari Bol.